and a new owner by perhaps the name of Zalupski or somebody else, that something can be accomplished between the Rays and St. Petersburg and Pinellas County. Or the other option, the option that I think is growing more steam by the day, by the week, by the month, new ownership of the Rays say, yeah, we're looking at Tampa.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Captain Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
We're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
So grab your favorite Rays gear and settle in as we discuss a stadium update or a government update between St. Petersburg and the Tampa Bay Rays. We also have hopefully a couple mailbag questions that we can get to. One involving the bullpen, another involving an untouchable Rays player to trade. All that and more on today's episode.
Yes, but first we got to tell you, thank you so much for hitting that like button and subscribing if you haven't on YouTube. It means a lot to us. We actually, Kevin, have crossed the 2,500 subscriber line. So the crowd goes wild at this revelation. I mean,
yes, they do. Crowd goes wild.
It's nuts. Yeah. It's not so really, no, but really, thank you so much. It really means a lot to us that you guys hit that like and the subscribe button. So keep it going. The algorithm is it's much more difficult than hitting against Shane McClanahan. So yes, thank you all for doing that. Kev, should we get on with the episode by starting with that stadium divorce?
Yes. So there is a new report out that St. Petersburg officials want to make the city's divorce from the Tampa Bay Rays official and move on. St. Petersburg is taking steps to officially end its stadium and redevelopment agreement with the Tampa Bay Rays after the team backed out of a $1.3 billion ballpark deal on March 31st. So the city council will vote on July 24th to formally terminate the partnership with the Rays and developer Hines, dissolving plans for the historic gas plant district redevelopment, which included housing, offices, and entertainment space. So I say all that to say this, just because this deal will be off the table, most likely, doesn't mean that when Stu Sternberg is no longer the owner and a new owner by perhaps the name of Zalupski or somebody else comes in and wants to play ball and work well with others, that something can be accomplished between the Rays and St. Petersburg and Pinellas County. Or the other option, the option that I think is growing more steam by the day, by the week, by the month, is that the new ownership of the Rays say, yeah, we don't really want anything to do with St. Petersburg. We're looking at Tampa. We're looking at Jane Castor. We're looking at Hillsborough County. We're looking at Ken Hagen. That's where we want a new ballpark to be. So there will be a lot of entertainment and a lot of, I don't want to say controversy, but I'm sure some good news clippings on the television, the radio, and the interwebs.
100%.
Months and going into next year.
And plenty of quotes, plenty of tweets that'll be kind of spicy about the whole thing. And look, I feel like if you're the Rays, you're not going to even comment on this. Like, no. I don't think, why would you? As far as the vote on July 24th, that's a slam dunk unanimous decision waiting to happen, right? I mean, there shouldn't be any controversy there, right, Kev?
I wouldn't think so, no. I mean, you dissolve that agreement and then you could theoretically work on a new agreement. And honestly, at this point, some of the elected officials and city government and county government folks might be saying, we're just tired of rich billionaire owners and us getting hoodwinked. So instead of a ballpark, let's look at a convention center and let's do our own historic gas plant district, our own way sans ballpark. I think they're still working out, with some other parties as to how they can get a convention center there and all the other accoutrements. But
because obviously you can't really start right now with Tropicana Field being in play for the next couple of years, right? So that there's no convention center going up anytime soon. So, but does that kind of still doesn't matter if they have plans? Like, can they just be broken apart? This convention center, this XYZ thing that they create, can it just be picked up by a new ownership in 2026, 2027? Be like, hey, don't do the convention center. We want to do this. Like, how is there time? Because I feel like, these things we now know that these contracts ain't contracts. Like, they can just be torn apart at any time. So I'm sure that there can be, but it just seems to me like once this vote goes through, it's going to be very difficult for a new Rays ownership to even go back and pick up the phone, right? For St. Pete.
I think they could still go back and pick up the phone. I don't think that can happen until there's a new ownership group in place and some new figurehead or figureheads in place. I guess with the Trop still being there, the question is, can St. Petersburg build around the Trop for the convention center and the other accoutrements that they're looking at? Everything in government is slow. So yes. I don't think that it's going to be a situation where, okay, July 24th, the vote hits, July 25th, we're ready to start building. Like, it's going to take months, if not years, to get the ball rolling again. I think really, I don't see how it hurts. I don't see how it hurts St. Petersburg to wait a little bit longer until the new ownership comes in place. And then you have conversations with that group to see what's up, what's what can be worked out. Very well, they might just think, we don't like this guy. We're just being put in a bidding war with Tampa, and they're ultimately going to go to Tampa, and we're going to do our own thing. The ball's kind of in St. Petersburg's court, but then again, there's still a lot of groundwork, I would think, that needs to be laid.
But devil's advocate on their side, though, it's kind of like, look, we've been jerked around, obviously, this whole time. Let's put our foot down. Let's dissolve this thing, keep going with our new vision, and then let's see what happens. If the Rays sell and the new ownership wants to talk to us, we'll deal with that then. But right now, we have to stop moping around about something that coulda, shoulda, woulda, and then just go through and with a new path, new vision, and all of that. Which, by the way, if you want a new path and a new vision, you got to get yourself some open phone, and we'll talk about this and much more right now on the Locked On Rays podcast, your team every day.
All right. Did you know that if you're running a business, that every missed call is money left on the table? Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you didn't. You went ahead and called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so, so important. And that's also why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more, who's handling this call? Also, there's an AI agent who handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you'll never miss a customer again. And here's the cool thing. They are offering Locked On Rays listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnMLB. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, before we get into a mailbag question or two, to add some context to the conversation, I pulled up an article from the great Colleen Wright, who we should probably have on the show again at some point. In the article regarding this matter, she says, or she reports and writes that Mayor Ken Welch's city development administrator, say that 5 times fast, James Corbett, told city council members last month that the city is working with Pinellas County to commission a feasibility study on a convention center. So they don't even know anything about what the convention center would look like, where it would be placed, how much it would cost, a feasibility study means that we don't know where to start. We need to hire a contractor, an architect, and an engineer to figure all this out. So this is like ways away, in my opinion. And then they got a budget for all that. And there's a whole bunch of red tape, as you can imagine, especially with a project of this size. Moreover, Corbett's announcement came as news broke that the Rays were in exclusive discussions to sell the club to Jacksonville area home developer Patrick Zalupski. Welch, who is sworn off negotiating with current team ownership, as we know and aren't surprised by, he said that he was, quote, excited about the possibility of a sale. He said in March that new plans for the gas plant could include baseball under new ownership.
There you go. So basically, they're just making it official. We're not going to deal with the Rays under current.
Yeah, we're not going to deal with
under current people.
Yeah,
we're not doing that. And hey, guess what? For the new ownership, we now have in 2-3 years or whatever it is, it's like, hey, we actually have a convention center that we're looking into, that we've already done a feasibility study in late 2025, and it's it's all right now. So what do you got? What are you planning? Like, this is for them to make themselves a little bit more hard to get, I think, and also like completely just put the Rays ownership, the current Rays ownership in the rear view mirror. Like, that's it.
Right.
You're right. Feasibility study on a convention center. Time is clearly not of the essence, especially with government, like you're saying. Right. It takes time. So it's not like shovels are going in the ground anytime soon. So it's just clear cut. Let's get away from current Rays ownership. And if the future Rays owners want to talk to us, sure, we'll deal with that then.
This is a totally out of pocket comment, but and again, it's a private company, so they can do whatever they want. Stu Sternberg can sell to whomever he wants. But if there are multiple groups chomping at the bit to, hey, we can offer as much as Zalupski. We want to have our hat in the ring. Let's get all these people, all these candidates. Let's turn this into like, hey, this city's hiring a new police chief. This city's hiring a new city manager. This city has these city council members up for vote. They're candidates. Let's bring all these potential owners in a room and invite Rays fans to speak one-on-one with them and get the vibe and say, okay, we like this guy more than that guy or that lady or whomever. And then, I don't know, take a survey or something. That was just totally an off the wall comment, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
I'll reply with another, off the wall comment here. I thought you were going the LeBron way. I thought you were saying get all of these potential owners for the Rays and put them on a reality TV show.
Yes,
and so that Stu actually chooses who they are, like type of like Bachelor type of thing, and you get to see them, you get to hear about their past, you get their baseball fandom, all that. I thought that's
we just want to make sure that this real estate developer isn't going to do what the ownership of the Rockies is doing to that organization. You're not going to totally tank it. We're asking for a couple of things here. We're asking for more payroll, a new stadium, and long-term contract extensions for those that deserve them. What else? I think, somewhat affordable prices to games. That's it. That's all we want.
Honestly, if this was the Atlanta Braves, maybe this wouldn't be such an off-the-wall comment. Them not being privately owned and they can actually show their books and all that. So
like the Green Bay Packers.
Exactly. So that maybe you could do that if that were the case, but alas, it is not.
Let me just underscore how, just going to our first, two segments now, how slow government can be to move. Let's just say I know of a municipality that took 7 years to get an address plaque sign on a new building. A building that opened in 2018. It took till 2025 to get that address plaque.
Oh my God.
So just saying.
Yeah. Just if you want efficiency, just trust the government. Bleep it.
Yes,
Man,
exactly.
come on. You guys
There we
don't know
go.
that by now? Come on.
All right. Yep.
Well, you know what? We have a couple of mailbag questions, Kevin, but first we got to tell folks where exactly they need to place their green Skittles if they're Locked On Rays fans, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green like Kevin, or high-stakes soccer action like myself, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. If you're watching this podcast, you know you're following the action already, so why not make a little bit more thrilling and throw a little bit of that green Skittles on the games? You know, we've been using FanDuel a lot, mate, with the 6 really good weeks of race baseball. Maybe you feel a little bit of a vibe there and put some green Skittles on the race to win the World Series. And guess what? If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So again, open the FanDuel app. First bet, $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
All right, Ulises, hitting on a couple of mailbag questions before we wrap it up here. This one from Elephant 2024 says, wondering if it's time to shuffle a couple of pieces on the pitching chessboard by bringing in not only Joe Boyle, but Ian Seymour as well. Edwin Uceta has been struggling, but he was so good last year. I am reluctant to pull the plug on him yet. Was thinking maybe Joe Rock and Paul Gervais sent down in exchange for Joe Boyle and Ian Seymour. Boyle is definitely a starter. Perhaps Seymour could be used as a weapon out of the bullpen. Thinking of how good he was in Boston, I would be for putting Boyle in the rotation, even if it means going with 6 starters. So little addendum to all this. Ian Seymour was called up. Paul Gervais was sent down. I mean, is Joe Boyle technically part of the rotation? I mean, the Rays have already said they're doing the piggybacking approach with Rasmussen and Boyle. So will Boyle be used in any other role beyond that? I don't know
I mean, first, I think we need to say thank you to Elephant 2024 because that's an OG. That's someone who helps us beat the algorithm because commenting on the videos helps a lot, and Elephant 2024 is almost always there. So thank you. Great question. And you know what? You got it right. Joe Rock, Gervais, go down. Seymour and Boyle are up. As far as Boyle, I think we can. Let me answer this question with another question. Would you have considered Ryan Yarbrough and Yonny Chirinos part of the rotation when there was opener spot in front of them?
Yes.
I would too. They were going 4 or 5 innings. Maybe they weren't starting the first inning, but they were going 4 or 5 innings.
They're giving you, a big chunk of change there every 5 days. Every 4 days, whatever it is.
Is that not what a starter is? Maybe people are like very strict. No, they're not starters because they're not starting the game. All right, fine. They're part of the bullpen. But I do think Joe Boyle is part of the rotation there. Yeah. As far as Seymour, it was really great to see him finally up. It was just a little cup of coffee there in Boston. But the Rays need a little bit more stability in the bullpen. Yes. They need a little bit more production in the bullpen. Right now, the bullpen is struggling. And I feel like those 2 moves together should be yielding better results than what we've seen from the other guys.
Yeah, I think just like Joe Boyle, Ian Seymour is a long time coming.
Yes.
For the Rays. I mean, he literally can't do anything else at the minor league level. There's nothing left to prove. Like, if you don't have a plan for him with the big league club, trade him because he's not going to do any good for you. Just, pitching shutouts in AAA Durham. I mean, if it really is his entire minor league career basically mirrors what he did at Durham this year, which is amazing. And I think his command, not walking guys, his deceptive profile, the fact that he's got like 4 or 5 different pitches. I would have made this move a long time ago of, what are you doing with Paul Gervais and what are you doing with this guy and that guy and the other guy? Like, give Ian Seymour a shot. And hopefully he takes it and runs with it. But my guess is that, Joe Boyle and Seymour absolutely should elevate this pitching staff. I know we probably need a little bit more. I think Manny Rodriguez is due back at some point. And now the Rays basically have a couple weeks to decide, hey, is Uceta and some of these other guys going to get it in gear? Because if not, I think if you really have ideations on a playoff run, you got to cut bait and see if Boyle and Seymour can hack it. So I know it's a little bit probably later than we expected, but this also gives everybody a couple weeks to be on notice to say, hey, should they be a part of the club following the All-Star break?
And when you're talking about Manuel Rodriguez, I mean, I would think Mason Englert right now of the current iteration of the bullpen, Mason Englert would be the guy that gets the boot from the current bullpen for Manuel Rodriguez to come in. And then you're right. Then it's looking at Uceta and saying, okay, well, who are you? Because we not seen enough out of Uceta in 2025, and just it's just too up and down. And for a reliever, you can't have that. You gotta trust them when you give them the ball, especially in high leverage situations, especially when your team. I know the 6 weeks run was amazing and the offense was clicking on all cylinders, but overall, this team is not made up of an offensive juggernaut. They're done with pitching and defense. So you're going to be playing a lot of close games. And when you have leads late in games, you cannot have a bullpen that you don't know what you're going to get. You need to have a strong bullpen like the Rays usually have. So I am with you 100%. I think that both Boyle and Seymour are great additions. And then you start looking at what the pitching staff is like. And if we have the rotation made up of 6 guys currently, let's put Joe Boyle in that. Seymour's a guy that can give you innings. Yeah. So you have 7 guys there. It's looking maybe like a new age type of pitching staff where there isn't ultimately, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but maybe in 2, 3, 5 years time, we see a pitching staff made up of guys that can just all give you 4 or 5 innings.
Yeah.
A designated closer, but really 4 or 5 innings. And then you just mix and match day by day. It could be a new form of baseball.
The Rays are always looking for something new, some market inefficiency or advantage or some new wave theory there. Speaking on pitchers, for one more mailbag question, this comes from Brushbacks1. Here's a thought. Why is Taj Bradley not available to trade? I'm not saying this as hyperbole. Is this not realistic? I'm sure the Rays can get a haul for Bradley. They keep Littell and his productive innings. Boz, who we are saying is better, is trading Taj not an option?
Brushbacks, thank you for commenting and for your mailbag. I have not heard anything about the Rays shopping Bradley.
No.
And it would be, I think, very surprising for the Rays to trade a guy like Taj this young, this early, and at his lowest possible value.
Yeah.
If there's one thing the Rays like is controllable assets, especially when they're arms, because guess what? If you look at the top 10 highest paid players, the majority are going to be starting pitchers. So it's very difficult to get really high level starters, and the Rays have that. Hopefully with Taj. Now, does that mean that he is an untouchable? No, I don't think he's an untouchable.
Right.
Could it happen? Sure, but I wouldn't put green skittles that it's going to.
Yeah, I don't think Taj Bradley's being traded for a reliever. Like he would have to be part of quite the haul and probably a blockbuster type deal. Yeah. Because like you said, his value is pretty much at his lowest. I'm not saying that he's a bad pitcher or anything, but if you want the most return for Bradley, you want him being on a roll. And right now he's just not been on a roll. And, maybe there's a thought from the Rays of, well, we're looking at the numbers under the hood and he's actually not even as good as what his numbers show right now. So maybe we should cut bait. But I think just the fact that he is a controlled cheap asset that at the end of the day, whether the ERA is 3.5 or 4.75, he's given you innings, or he can give you innings. He's shown that the past couple years, and he's on pace for, what's he at 95 plus innings right now. Like if he holds fort right now, I mean, there's a lot of guys that, and maybe, circling back, a team would overpay if they really need a starting pitcher there. But I think there are, if there's one starter that continues to be dropped in trade discussions, it's Zach Littell, because he's a veteran and he's more expensive for the Rays, and you free up that payroll. And maybe, and the other thing too is like, if you're a team that's, trying to do something in the playoffs, would you rather have for this year alone, would you rather have Zach Littell or Taj Bradley?
I have to go with Zach Littell there.
So
especially
I think you could get a really good haul,
So you can do that too. I think people haven't really taken that into account. Like, you don't have to just trade Taj. You can also send him down to the minors and work on a few things that I'm sure the Rays would like him to work on.
Right. Yeah. So, I don't think, and who knows, they might shock me, but I don't think Taj Bradley is getting traded anytime soon. It is interesting though, because if you look at some of the websites out there, they say that the Rays' biggest needs are, of course, a high leverage bullpen arm, and then upgrading the outfield, like getting a power bat in the outfield. I will say Chris Morel has picked it up in his last 12 to 15 games, but maybe that's something that we're underlooking a little bit, is somebody that can bring pop from the outfield position. But I think first and foremost, it's getting that bullpen arm.
100%. I would be a very happy camper if they do some bullpen maneuvers, which they've already started doing it with in-house movements, which I'm all for. Sure, do that. I'm just saying, in the trade deadline, you can really get a really interesting couple of arms to really solidify. If there are the David Bednars, Emmanuel Clases type names, sure, awesome, great. Yeah. But if they're not, and they're just more like undervalued guys who not a lot of people know of, but they're incredible arms, like the Rays know how to target, then so be it. Let's do that. That path is always welcome, especially when you're the Rays.
I saw this real quickly. A trade package of Curtis Mead, Aiden Miller, and Taj Bradley to get Sean Murphy and maybe a no-name reliever. Would you make that move?
Ooh, buddy, I think that's a whole lot of segment for next episode.
Okay. Yeah, we might have to save that for another time. Put it in the comments if you would like that maneuver there to beef up the offense and the offense at the catcher position. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you listen to podcasts.